Ambassador Velthar had always found humanity peculiar. In the 3 centuries since Earth had joined the Galactic Council, humans had distinguished themselves as mediators, peacekeepers, and diplomats extraordinaire. While the Kryn Empire rattled, sabers at the Thorian Collective, and the Zephyrite clans raided merchant vessels with impunity, humanity sat at negotiation tables, their faces etched with patience that seemed almost supernatural. "They are cowards," Commander Zeknor of the Vorsoth Dominion had once declared during a council session. "They hide behind words because they lack the spine for true conflict." Velthar had watched the human ambassador, a silver-haired woman named Chen, simply smile at the insult. She had not defended her species' honor with threats or posturing. Instead, she had calmly returned to proposing a trade agreement that would benefit both parties. The Vorsoth had accepted, begrudgingly, and the matter was forgotten. But Velthar wondered. He had studied human history, their ancient data files that spoke of world wars and atomic fire, of conflicts so devastating they had nearly consumed their entire planet. Yet since leaving Earth, humanity had not fired the first shot in a single conflict. They had defended themselves when necessary, fought alongside allies when called upon, but never had they been the aggressors. The question haunted him. What had changed? Had they evolved beyond their violent past? Or had they simply learned to suppress it? The answer came when the Zaaran hegemony made their fatal mistake. The Zaaran were a proud warrior race, their forearms bred for combat, their culture steeped in conquest. They had been expanding aggressively for decades, absorbing smaller civilizations, but the Council had tolerated them. War was the way of the galaxy, after all, and the Zaaran followed the old codes. They conquered, but they did not exterminate. Then they attacked Novara Station. Novara was a human research outpost on the edge of Council space, home to 3,000 scientists and their families. It was civilian, unarmed, and according to every galactic treaty, untouchable. The Zaaran claimed it sat on territory they had marked for expansion. They gave no warning. They simply opened fire. When the distress signal cut off, Velthar was in the council chambers. He watched Ambassador Chen receive the news through her neural interface. Her face went pale, then completely blank. For a moment, she sat frozen, and Velthar saw something in her eyes he had never witnessed before. Something old and cold and absolutely terrifying. She stood slowly. "The human delegation requests an emergency recess." The council granted it, confused by her subdued tone. Most species would have demanded immediate action, raged against the injustice. Chen simply walked out, her delegation following in eerie silence. 3 days later, humanity declared war. The declaration itself was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. There was no bombast, no threats, no demands for honor satisfaction. It was a simple clinical document that laid out the facts. The unprovoked attack, the civilian deaths, and humanity's formal response under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter. The human ambassador read it aloud in a voice devoid of emotion, and when she finished, she said only, "We will not be attacking Zaaran civilian targets. We will not be taking prisoners. We will not stop until their government surrenders unconditionally or ceases to exist. That is all." The council was stunned. The Zaaran were amused. General Karthek, supreme commander of the Zaaran military, had laughed. Finally, the humans show their true weakness. They announce their intentions like children, limit themselves. With rules, and expect us to fear them? We will crush them as we have crushed dozens before. The war began 3 hours later. Velthar had expected a long campaign. Humanity's military was respectable but not legendary. They had good ships, competent soldiers, but nothing that suggested they could challenge the Zaaran's battle-hardened legions. He was wrong about everything. The first battle of Zaaran Prime lasted 11 minutes. Human ships emerged from jump space in formations that seemed random until they opened fire. Every shot was synchronized, calculated by quantum computers networked across the fleet. They didn't aim for ships. They aimed for specific points on specific ships, targeting reactor shielding, weapon systems, life support. Za'aran vessels didn't explode dramatically. They simply stopped working, their crews left alive but helpless in dead hulks floating through space. The humans had been studying Za'aran ship design for 3 centuries, waiting, learning, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. But it wasn't the technology that horrified Velthar. It was the methodology. Humanity didn't fight with rage or passion. They fought like they negotiated, with patience, precision, and an almost casual efficiency that was far more terrifying than any battle fury. There was no honor in their warfare, no glory, no mercy. They had promised not to target civilians, and they kept that promise religiously. But military targets? Every Za'aran military installation, every warship, every supply depot was catalogued, prioritized, and systematically destroyed. The Za'aran tried to rally. They were warriors, after all, bred for combat. But humanity had spent those 3 centuries learning how warriors think, how they react, how they can be predicted. Every Za'aran counteroffensive ran into ambushes. Every retreat was cut off. Every attempt at regrouping was disrupted by perfectly timed strikes. Velthar realized, with growing horror, that humanity had been running war game simulations for centuries. Thousands of scenarios, millions of battles, all fought in virtual space against every possible opponent. They had been practicing for a war they never started, refining their doctrine, perfecting their strategy, waiting. The Za'aran military collapsed in 6 weeks. General Carthax, the same general who had laughed at humanity's declaration, surrendered on behalf of the hegemony. The ceremony was brief. Ambassador Chen accepted the surrender with the same blank expression she had worn since Novara fell. There was no triumph in her voice, no satisfaction. When asked if humanity would accept reparations, she said simply, "Keep your wealth. Rebuild your society. Remember what happens when you murder our civilians. We will remember." In the aftermath, the galaxy was quiet. The council convened, but few spoke. Velthar finally understood the truth that humanity had been demonstrating all along. They didn't start wars because they were too good at finishing them. Humans had evolved beyond their violent past, but they hadn't abandoned it. They had studied it, mastered it, and locked it away behind layers of diplomacy and patience. They chose peace not out of weakness, but because they knew the cost of war better than any species in the galaxy. They had burned their own world and nearly destroyed themselves learning that lesson. But when forced, when pushed beyond every alternative, when innocents were murdered, they remembered. And they deployed 300 years of suppressed tactical knowledge with a cold, methodical precision that made the old warrior races look like children playing with sticks. Velthar never again heard anyone call humanity cowards. Instead, a new saying spread through the galaxy, whispered in military academies and council chambers. Pray the humans never stop talking, because when they start fighting, they've already won.